Hi, everybody, and welcome back for another exciting week of Español. This is Capítulo Ocho, titled A Comer, or Let's Eat. This is definitely, if not the favorite, one of my favorite chapters in this text. I think a lot of it is just because I like to eat. Yo soy un gordito, perhaps. But overall, I'm excited to share this chapter with you. Some learning objectives just guiding us throughout this unit. My goal is that by the end of this chapter, you'll be able to identify vocabulary related to foods, beverages, and restaurants. You should also be able to order your meal in Spanish at a restaurant of your choice. So, should you find yourself abroad, you'll be able to use the language in ordering your food. Um, some other things we'll be talking about, some big grammar points of this chapter, are the preterite tense of stem changing verbs. So you've already learned about the regular preterite back in chapter 6 and chapter 7. We incorporated a couple irregular preterite verbs. Here in chapter 8, we're going to bring in the stem changing preterite verbs. You're also going to learn to differentiate between saber and conocer. You're going to learn to use comparisons and superlatives in natural speech in Spanish. And then we'll also just learn how to shorten some of these statements using double object pronouns, kind of building on what you already know. Finally, you're going to spend some time investigating foods in the Spanish-speaking world and just discussing familiar people and familiar places. So that's where we're going. We're going to get started, as always, with a look at some vocabulary. And here we are in el restaurante, or in a restaurant. So as we take a look at the photos, on the far left, you see el camarero. Be careful, it's not a camaro. Let's practice saying that together. El camarero. Very good. A camarero is a waiter. You can probably guess a waitress would be that's right, a camarera. Camarera, awesome. Some other vocabulary words that we see here listed in red. We have el dueño or la dueña, which is the owner of the restaurant. El plato, which by itself is just a plate or a dish. If you order a plato principal, you're ordering literally a principal plate, a main plate, also known as an entree. We have different types of meals in Spanish as well. There is el desayuno, or breakfast, el almuerzo, lunch, or la cena, dinner. In general, we refer to these things as las comidas, or the meals. Comida also just means food as well. There is one important comida that they left out there. We also have la merienda, which is a snack. So if you actually watch Scooby-Doo in Spanish, you hear about las meriendas de Scooby, las meriendas de Señor Do, if you will. Some verbs that we see down here at the bottom in red, we have almorzar, which means to lunch, and almorzar does have a stem change from O to UE. We also have cenar, to eat dinner, to dine, literally. And you can kind of see those are worked in. We have almuerzo, the lunch, almorzar, to lunch, cenar, to have dinner, to dine, and cena, dinner, so kind of connected. We also have desayunar, to breakfast, to have breakfast, and then desayuno, the breakfast. Some other verbs you see are pedir, which means to order, and pedir does have a stem change from E to I. Probar, probar means literally to try or to taste something. It also has a stem change from O to UE. Recomendar, recomendar means to recommend, and it has a stem change from E to IE. And then finally, servir. Servir means to serve, and it has a stem change from E to I. Probably the most popular word in Spanish, even if you had never taken a single Spanish class in your life, you probably already knew the word pollo, el pollo. You see a picture of pollo asado, which is roasted chicken, like a rotisserie chicken. But in general, we're familiar with pollo. There is a very common dish served at pretty much any Mexican restaurant, whether you're going to El Charolais, El Kroger, Santa Fe, whatever restaurant you're choosing, La Carreta, La Corona, wherever you're going. El pollo is always there, along with el arroz con pollo. Arroz is rice, so arroz con pollo is just chicken and rice. ACP, arroz con pollo. However, I hope that after taking this class, you will continue to pronounce this word correctly as pollo and not polo. If you order polo, your waiter will serve you one of these over there. Also, arroz should be rice. Arroz, not arroz, which we'll result in a rose being on top of your polo, literally. So just be careful with your pronunciation there. Some other vocabulary words related to foods and beverages. We see las carnes, or meats, los pescados, fish, y los mariscos, which are like shellfish, seafood. So some verbs that you see, and just, excuse me, not verbs, some nouns, some words that you see here. On the left, we have el atún, the tuna, el atún. No me gusta el atún, personalmente, pero el atún. Los camarones, camarones are shrimp. Me encantan los camarones. La carne, just meat in general. Kind of like a carnivore. A carnivore eats meat. So carne is meat. La carne de res is beef. La chuleta de cerdo. A chuleta de cerdo is like literally a pork chop. Cerdo is pig, and a chuleta is like literally a rib. It's like rib of the pig, a pork chop. Las chuletas de cerdo. We have an hamburguesa. An hamburguesa is a hamburger. You also can have an hamburguesa vegetariana, like a vegetarian burger, like a Beyond Burger. El jamón, the ham. La langosta, lobster. El pavo, turkey. El pescado, fish. La salchicha, sausage. And el salmón, salmon, salmón. Under el gusto y los sabores, some flavors that we see here are agrio, sour, agrio. Amargo, bitter, amargo. Delicioso, delicious. Dulce, sweet. Picante, spicy. Rico, tasty. Sabroso, delicious, kind of like delicioso. And salado, salty. Some other just general meals that we see. We see a picture here of los mariscos, just seafood in general. You got some langosta, camarones, pescado, limones, todo. Here we have el bistec, a nice juicy steak, el bistec. La ensalada, the salad, la ensalada. And then up top we have los entremeses, which literally are between the meals or appetizers, los entremeses. All right, so just some words there. Let's take a moment and let you practice. So if you would, just repeat after me. El atún, los camarones, la carne de res, la chuleta de cerdo, la hamburguesa vegetariana, el jamón, la langosta, el pavo, el pescado, la salchicha, el salmón, agrio, amargo, delicioso, dulce, picante, rico, sabroso, salado, los mariscos, los entremeses, el bistec y la ensalada. Awesome. All right, so a few more words to add. We have some frutas here, which are just fruits, frutas. We have la banana, the banana, el limón, the lemon, la manzana, the apple, la naranja, the orange, y las uvas, the grapes. And together these things are considered to be frutas. Over on the right, we have some bebidas. Bebidas are beverages. We have specifically la bebida, the drink or the beverage, la cerveza, the beer, el jugo de fruta, which is juice, or el jugo de fruta is fruit juice, la leche, the milk, el refresco, a soft drink or a soda, el té by itself is just tea. If you order a té, you'll get a nice hot tea. El té helado is iced tea. El vino blanco is white wine, or el vino tinto, tinted wine or red wine. In the middle, we see los granos y las verduras, so grains and vegetables. We see in this list el ajo. Ajo is garlic. El arroz, there's that word, arroz con pollo, arroz, rice. Las arvejas, which are peas, arvejas. La cebolla, the onion, la cebolla. Los cereales, the cereals or grains. Los frijoles are beans. La lechuga, the lettuce. El maíz, the corn. La papa, or in some countries they say la patata, the potato. I personally like patata because it's just more fun to say, patata. El tomate, the tomato. Las verduras, vegetables or veggietales. And finally, la zanahoria, or the carrot. We also see el sandwich down here, a sandwich. La pimienta, the pepper, the little shaker over here. And then this is just such a fun word to say, los champiñones. Champiñones. Champiñones are mushrooms, champiñones. All right, so you've got some words there. Let's also pause and let you say these. So here we go. La banana, el limón, la manzana, la naranja, las uvas, las frutas, el ajo, el arroz, las arvejas, la cebolla, los cereales, los frijoles, la lechuga, el maíz, la papa, la patata, el tomate, las verduras, la zanahoria, el sándwich, los champiñones, la pimienta, la bebida, la cerveza, el jugo de fruta, la leche, el refresco, el té helado, el vino blanco, el vino tinto. Awesome. So you got some vocab words there. Okay, as we wrap up our vocab, you see some pictures of things. The absolute best thing in the whole world, best creation ever. On the far left side, you see el café. Sí, el café is coffee. Next to that, we have el agua, the water. You also could have el agua mineral, mineral water. Under los condimentos y otras comidas, we see el aceite, which is oil, el azúcar, sugar, el huevo, the egg, la mantequilla, the butter. And I always joke with my students, man, that butter will quilla. La mantequilla, the butter. La margarina, margarine. La mayonesa, mayonnaise. El pan is bread. Or you might have el pan tostado, toasted bread or toast. Las papas or las patatas fritas are French fries. I say papas fritas, talking about French fries, but I say patatas, talking about potatoes. El queso, the cheese. La sal, the salt. La sopa, the soup, not the soap, but the soup. El vinagre, the vinegar. And finally, el menú, the menu. So these are some various other food items for you there. All right, so it's time to put your practice to the test. Talking about la comida, the food, I'd like for you to indicate which word is just doesn't belong in the list, which does not fit into the category. So for example, in número uno, we're given sabroso, manzana, banana, and naranja. So as you're looking at these, which one does not fit into the list? Well, yeah, it's sabroso, because in this case, sabroso is tasty, manzana is apple, banana is banana, and naranja is orange. So manzanas, bananas, y naranjas son frutas. They're all fruits. But sabroso is not a fruit, so it did not fit. So we'll circle sabroso here. Let's do one more. In número dos, you're given salmón, salmon, cereales, cereal, camarones, shrimp, and mariscos, seafood. In this case, we circled cereales, obviously, because cereal is not a type of fish or seafood. So very good, very good. All right, I'd like for you guys to please pause now. Give numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6 a quick try, and we will come back together and check these. All right, let's see how you're doing. Número 3, we're given frijoles, beans, champiñón, mushroom, naranja, orange, and cebolla, the onion. Obviously, we chose naranja here. It's not a dinner food, naranja. In número 4, we're given mantequilla. Remember, man, that butter will kill ya. Salchicha, a sausage. Carne de res, beef. And jamón, ham. Obviously, the mantequilla does not fit in here. It's not a type of carne, not a type of meat. Número 5, we're given arvejas or peas, lechuga, lettuce, zanahoria, carrot, or dulce, sweet. In this case, dulce does not fit because it's not a verdura, it's not a vegetable. And número 6, we have refresco, the soft drink, sopa, soup, agua mineral, mineral water, and la leche, the milk. In this case, it is la sopa that does not fit in because it's not a beverage. All right, great. Let's try one more vocab practice activity. In this activity, I'm going to give you a sentence, and you're going to use any vocab word that we just learned to fill in the blank. So as we start with número 1, we're given la persona que sirve la comida en un restaurante es blank. So in this case, the person that serves the food in a restaurant is blank. We know that's the waiter, or in español, you should say. Very good, very good. El camarero, the waiter. Número 2, we say, camarero, camarero, ¿puedo ver blank, por favor? Señor, Mr. Waiter, ¿puedo ver? Am I able to see blank, please? Can I see a menu? ¿Puedo ver el menú? El menú, por favor? All right, so I'd like for you to pause your audio. Please give numbers 3 through 6 a quick try, and we'll come back together and check these out. All right, let's see how you're doing. In número 3, we're given el bistec, which is a steak, el jamón, the ham, and we're saying that el bistec y el jamón son tipos de blank. So steak and ham, those are types of meat, tipos de carne. Número 4, el té, helado, iced tea, el café, coffee, y los refrescos son blank. So iced tea, coffee, soft drinks, those are all beverages, or en español we said bebidas. Número 5, algo del color blanco que pongo en el café es, so something the color white that you put in your coffee. Well, so for this one, there's 2 correct answers. You could have said that white stuff you put in your coffee is sugar, azúcar, or you might have said that it's milk, leche. Technically, you guys haven't learned this word, but it also could just be crema. And finally, número 6, las 3 comidas principales del día son, so the 3 principal plates, the 3 main meals del día son blank. Well, your 3 main meals are desayuno, breakfast, almuerzo, lunch, y la cena, dinner. All right, so you've had some practice with your vocab. As we roll into the grammar for this chapter, starting with 8.1, we're talking about stem changing verbs. Now, if you recall, back when I taught you the preterite initially, I said, hey, AR and ER verbs, they don't have any stem changes in the preterite. And I just said, we'll come back to IR verbs, wink, wink, wink. Okay, now we're coming back to IR verbs, wink, wink, wink. So remember, AR, ER, no stem change. So even if it normally has a stem change in the present tense, like costar, normally changing from O to UE, nothing's going to happen to costar in the preterite because it's an AR or an ER verb. In this case, it's an AR verb. But nothing's going to happen to it. Just costé, costaste, costó, costamos, costastes, costaron. Nothing's happening. It's only IR verbs that have a stem change in the present tense that are also going to change in the preterite. And the way it works, basically, you're still going to have a stem change, but not in the way that you're used to. So in layman's terms, instead of changing in the boot, which is what you experience with stem changes in the present tense, instead of changing in the boot, the stem changing preterite is only going to happen in the sandal, only in the bottom 2 boxes, and it's going to have a shortened stem change. Okay, And I'll tell you more about what I mean by that in just a sec, but I think it's easier to let you visualize it. So we talk about the present tense and stem changers. In the present, it changes in the boot. So everything except for the nosotros and the vosotros, it's changing. Like here you had poder, puedo, puedes, puede, but podemos, podés, and pueden. So here is the rule about the preterite. If it's an AR or an ER verb that stem changes in the present tense, then in the present it's going to change in the boot, and in the preterite it's not going to change at all. Nothing. Just chop off your endings, throw the normal endings on there. That's it. If it is a IR verb that stem changes in the present tense, then in the present it's still going to change in the boot just like the others. But in the preterite, it's going to change only in the third person singular and plural forms, aka the él, ella, usted box and the ellos, ellas, ustedes box. Nowhere else, just those. It's also going to have a shortened stem change. What that means is if this IR verb normally changes from E to IE, then it's just going to change from E to I and only in the sandal. If this IR verb normally changes from O to UE, then it's just going to change from O to U and again only in the sandal. And if this IR verb normally changes from E to I, then it's just going to change from E to I still, but only in the sandal, the chancla. So let's visualize that. Here's an example of a sandal verb. Let's go back to servir, to serve. Servir normally has a stem change from E to I. So when it's here in the present tense, it's changing in the boot, right? Sirvo, sirve, sirve, servimos, servis, sirven. Changing from E to I in the boot. But in the preterite, nothing happens to it in the other boxes. It's just chopping off your IR and servi, serviste, servimos, servistes. But down here we get sirvio, sirvieron, changing that E to an I. But notice, unlike changing in the boot, for the preterite, it only changed in the third person singular and third person plural forms, aka the sandal. Okay, here's another example of the verb dormir, something we all like to do. Dormir is to sleep. Dormir normally changes from O to UE when it's in the present tense. So we get duermo, duermes, duerme, duermen, but dormimos and dormís. So again, changing in the boot from O to UE. In the preterite, remember these have a shortened stem change, and they only change in the sandal. So the top boxes remain the same. DORM, chop off your IR, and you got dormí, dormiste, dormimos, and dormistes. But down here, in the ellos, ellas, ustedes forms, we get durmió and durmieron, changing that O to a U as a shortened stem change. All right, so let's see another example. Well, the verb servir, chopping off your IR, just want to illustrate for you step by step. Nothing happens up here in the top boxes, staying as an E. Down here, we're changing our E to an I, so we get sirv instead of serve. We throw our normal preterite endings on there, and we're all finished. Serví, serviste, sirvió, servimos, servistes, and sirvieron. One more example with the verb repetir. Well, the repetir normally changes from E to I, so it's still going to change from E to I, but only in the sandal. We get repet in our top few boxes, but repeat in our bottom boxes. We add those endings, repetí, repetiste, repitió, repetimos, repetistes, and repitieron. And we're all finished. That's it. Not too bad. So let's let you practice a little bit. I'm going to mix all these together. This activity is titled Pobre Señor Suarez, poor Mr. Suarez. Let's figure out why we call him that. So it tells us in the model that Los Señores Suarez cenar hoy en un restaurante. They're having dinner, or they ate dinner in a restaurant today. So we took cenar, we chopped off our AR, and we said cenaron. Nothing weird happening there, just a normal preterite verb. No stem changers, nothing like that. But don't worry, they're mixed in. Número uno, los señores Suárez llegaron al restaurante a las 8 y seguir al camarero a una mesa. So, Mr. and Mrs. Suarez arrived at the restaurant at 8 and to follow a waiter to the table. Well, if we think through this one with seguir, we know that seguir means to follow. We know that seguir in the present tense has a stem change from E to I. So here, being an IR verb, it's still going to change from E to I, but only in the sandal. So we get seguir, we chop off our IR and seguir, and we add our ending. So, los señores Suárez siguieron al camarero a una mesa. They followed the waiter to the table. siguieron. They followed. Okay, so now it's time to see what you know. I want you to take a moment and pause me for a minute and give yourself a few minutes to work these out, numbers 2 through 6. Be careful to make sure to check to see if they're IR verbs and how they stem change and all that. When you're ready to check your answers, you can unmute. All right, let's see how we're doing. So, número 2. El señor Suárez pedir una chuleta de cerdo. Y la señora Suárez decidió probar los camarones. So, señor Suárez, he ordered a pork chop, and Mrs. Suárez decided to try the shrimp. So, señor Suárez, to say that he ordered, we're going to take pedir. We know that pedir normally has a stem change from E to I. In this case, it's only going to change in the sandal. So we take that E, change it to an I, we get pedir, we chop off our IR and pedir, and we say that he ordered. Pidió, pidió. Awesome. Okay, número 3. Para tomar, to drink. Los dos pedir vino. So again, same thing, pedir, only changing from E to I when it's in the ellos, ellas, ustedes, or el, ella, usted box. In this case, since we're talking about the two of them, they ordered. It is still the third person plural. So los dos pidieron, they ordered. Pidieron. Again, changing your E to an I, chopping off your IR, and adding ieron. Número 4. El camarero repetir el pedido para confirmarlo. So the waiter repeated the order in order to confirm it. So he repeated, we're going to take repetir, which we know normally changes from E to I, and it is the second E that changes. So we'll go ahead and change that E to an I. We get repetir, and to say he repeated, we chop off our IR, and we say that el camarero repitió. He repeated, repitió. Número 5. La comida tardó mucho en llegar a los señores Suárez. Casi dormirse esperándola. So the food took a long time in arriving, and Mr. and Mrs. Suarez, they almost fell asleep waiting on it. So we take this verb dormirse. We know it's both reflexive and a stem changer. Whoa, all right. Well, it's okay. We know how to conjugate reflexive verbs. We take dormirse, we go ahead and chop off our se, move it to the front. Get it out of the way. Check, taken care of. Now, dormir normally has what kind of stem change? That's right. Normally in the present tense, it changes from O to UE. But here in the preterite, it's going to be shortened, right? So it's just going to change from O to U. So we get se, dormirse. We move our se to the front, and we chop off our IR. We end up with se durmieron. They almost fell asleep. Se durmieron. And our last one, número 6. A las 9, el camarero les servir la comida. At 9 o'clock, the waiter, two or four of them, served the food. So again, the waiter, he served, take servir, change your E to an I, chop off your IR. El camarero les sirvió la comida. All right, fantastic. As we change gears, I'd like to take a moment to talk about your second grammar point for this chapter, Gramática 8.2, about double object pronouns. First, before we do that, let's take a little flashback to the past. A double object pronoun just means you're putting two types of pronouns together, hence the term double. In this case, the two types are your direct object pronouns and your indirect object pronouns. These are all things you've already learned about, so nothing new. Our direct object pronouns are usually translated as either it or them, and are usually lo, la, los, and las. So it or them, lo, la, los, and las. Our indirect object pronouns are translated as to or for and a person's name. So to or for me, me. To or for you, te. To or for him or her, le. Or to or for you, formal, le. To or for us, nos. To or for you all in Spain, os. And to or for them, or to or for y'all, les. So these are your direct object pronouns and your indirect object pronouns. The reason we call them double objects is because we start putting these together. And this is just a natural way to shorten your speech in Spanish. So you're just taking a whole sentence and writing it in 3 words, basically. You're shortening it down. Honestly, learning these double object pronouns makes it a lot easier to understand spoken Spanish, in my opinion, because just like in English, people who speak Spanish as their native language tend to abbreviate a lot and shorten things down. And, hey, will you get me a glass of water? Oh, yeah, I'll get it for you. Not, I'll get a glass of water for you, sure. Yeah, I'll get it for you. We shortened the glass to it and the glass of water to it, and we shortened instead of to or for me, we said to or for you. So those are direct and indirect object pronouns being used together as double object pronouns. Speaking of, let's see a few examples first in English. So, hey, will you get me a towel? Yeah, I'll get it for you. Well, the towel was replaced by it, and instead of to or for me, we were responding to someone, so we said for you. Hey, would you bring me some snacks? Sure, I'll bring them for you. Again, we replaced to or for me with to or for you because we're responding to someone. And we replaced some snacks with them because it'd be weird to say, yeah, I'll get it for you or I'll bring it for you instead of them since we're talking about a plural item. So, same kind of thing. We do this all the time in English, and it's just a natural way to shorten your speech. Um, so, as we look at these in Spanish, the rule is that the indirect object pronoun always comes before the direct object pronoun when they're used together in the same sentence. There's a little jingle, indirect before direct, reflexives first of all. I always tell my students to remember, since indirect object pronouns talk about people, to or for me, to or for you, to for him or her, etc., and direct object pronouns talk about things, we always put people first. People first. So in that case, your indirect object pronoun comes before your direct object pronoun. Here's some examples. El camarero me muestra el menú. The waiter, to or for me, shows the menu. He shows me the menu. Well, we could shorten, he shows it to me. El camarero me lo muestra. So we already had a me, to or for me, he's showing. And the menu, we shortened to it, me lo muestra. Notice again, the indirect object came before the direct object because indirect before direct, reflexes first of all, or because people first. Here's another example. Nos sirven los platos. To or for us, they serve the dishes, they serve the plates. Nos los sirven. So to or for us, them they serve. We shortened to los platos, which was masculine and plural, to los. Nos los sirven. They serve them to us. And one more example. Maribel te pidió una hamburguesa. Maribel ordered a hamburger for you. We could shorten that even further. She ordered it for you. Of course, the it we're talking about is the hamburger, la hamburguesa, which we're going to shorten to la. And as we reorder, Maribel te la pidió. To or for you, it she ordered. Te la pidió. Because again, indirect before direct, reflexives first of all. Okay, so let's look at some more examples, and I'm going to tell you about one little peculiarity. So in this case, we have a little problem. It's not an issue when you're combining these things together. I'll go back some. If you're allowed to melo, mela, melos, melas, you can telo, tela, telos, telas, you can noslo, you can oslo, you can all those, but you cannot le or les, lo, la, los, and las. That's why we have the se here in parentheses, okay? And the reason why, hopefully you know who these people are down here on the slide. The only lelo that exists in this life is lelo and stitch, lelo. Otherwise, no lelo. So, for example, le escribí la carta a él. To or for him, I wrote the letter. Well, we can shorten it. I wrote it to him. Le la escribí. That makes perfect sense. To or for him, it I wrote. Except we have a problem. We have the L's here. It's a problem. It's too difficult for your mouth to pronounce these, the le and the la. So they decided to change the le to se. Se la escribí. So the rule here is that you cannot have le or les followed by lo, la, los, or las. It cannot happen. In all of those cases, le or les is going to change to se. Here's another example. Les sirvió los entremeses. To or for them, he served the appetizers. We could shorten. To or for them, he served the appetizers by saying he served them to them. So to or for them, talking about people, we got les, the appetizers, los entremeses, we shortened to los, and he served sirvió. The only problem is we're not allowed to les los, so we change it to se los sirvió. And a final example, le pedimos un café. To or for him, we ordered a coffee. We asked for a coffee. So we ask for it from him, le lo pedimos, and we're not allowed to lelo, we change our le to se, and we get se lo pedimos. So basically, if you have lelo on your paper, or lelos or leslas, any of those, and you're not talking about lelo and stitch, your answer's probably wrong, right? It's the double L's that are a problem there. Okay. All right. So one final little note here. Another struggle about le and les is that they do have multiple meanings, right? Le can mean to or for him, to or for her, to or for you formal. Les can mean to or for them, masculine, to or for them feminine, or to or for you all. So a lot of times we will insert the personal a and someone's name, or the personal a and a subject pronoun in order to clarify. So el sombrero, Carlos se lo vendió. The hat, Carlos sold it. Well, sold it to who? A ella. Se lo vendió a ella. Sold it to her, right? Because if it was just se lo vendió, it could have been sold it to her, sold it to him, sold it to you formal. We don't know. So having the a ella helps clarify. Same thing here. Las llaves, the keys, yo se las di a ella. I gave them to her, a ella. A ella clarifies it's to her. Without a ella, se las di could mean, well, I gave them to him, gave them to her, gave them to y'all. We don't know. So it's helpful to have that. Okay. As far as placement goes, don't overcomplicate this. This is just like your other placement of any kind of attachment. So kind of like we were talking about reflexive verbs in our last chapter where you were allowed to put the say, it's the same thing here. In general, the best place to put it, in my opinion, is in front of your conjugated verb. If it goes in front of your conjugated verb, it's never going to be wrong. So that is one option, in front of your conjugated verb. You also can attach it to your infinitive, aka your unconjugated verb, the verb that still ends in AR, ER, IR, or you can attach it to your participle like a gerund. Here's some examples of each one. Te lo voy a mostrar. To or for you, it I'm going to show. That's perfect. We did our indirect before our direct, and then there's our conjugated verb. Oops, sorry. Te lo voy a mostrar. To or for you, it I'm going to show. It's totally okay as well to attach it to the end of your infinitive. Voy a mostrártelo. I'm going to show it to you. Notice in that case, the indirect te still came before the direct lo, because indirect before direct. Reflexes first of all. Here's another example. Nos las están sirviendo. To or for us, them, they are serving. Again, it was all in front of our conjugated verb están, and the indirect came before the direct. Perfect. You can also reorder it. Están sirviéndonoslas. They are serving us them. Están sirviéndonoslas. We still put the nos before the las because indirect before direct, and it was just attached to the participle, sirviendo. Now, in that case, if you do choose to attach with either the infinitive or the participle, you do get a written accent on the stressed syllable. So, mostrártelo, sirviéndonoslas, with those accents. Okay, so personally, I feel like the easiest thing to do is to put it in front of your conjugated verb. It keeps things a little bit more simple, but you do it however you prefer. It's totally up to you. Here's some examples with photos. La vendedora está sirviéndoselas. So the salesperson is serving them to you. And está haciéndosela. She's making it for you. Está haciéndosela. All right, those are your direct object pronouns. So let's take a moment and practice with this grammar point. The title of this activity is ¿Quién? Or who? ¿Quién? The model gives us ¿Quién va a traerme la carne del supermercado? So who is going to bring me the meat from the supermarket? And the answer is mi esposo, my husband. So we shorten it. Who's going to bring me the meat from the supermarket? My husband's going to bring it, referring back to the meat, bring it to me. So we have two options. Mi esposo me la va a traer. We know he was bringing it to me, me. He was bringing the meat, la carne, which we shorten to la, and we put it in front of our conjugated verb, va. So mi esposo me la va a traer. Perfect. Or maybe you want to attach it to your infinitive. My husband is going to bring it to me. Mi esposo va a traérmela. Again, we put the me before the la because indirect before direct. And we put a written accent on the syllabus. The syllable that is emphasized. Traérmela. All right, so let's give you a chance to try one. We'll do this one together. We have ¿Quién les mandó las invitaciones a los invitados? So who, to or for them, sent the invitations to the guest? Who sent the invitations to the guest? And your answer is mi hija, my daughter. So my daughter sent them to them. So let's start with that part. To say to or for them, talking about the guest, we know we're going to use les. Talking about the invitations, them, we're going to shorten to las. And then we already have the verb mandó, she sent. So mi hija les las mandó. To or for them she sent. But we know we're not allowed to les las, so we change our les to se. Mi hija se las mandó. Okay, let's try another one. Actually, there's several here. So I tell you what, why don't you take a moment, pause your audio, and give the rest of these a try. When you're ready, you can unmute and I'll walk you through each one individually. All right, let's see how you're doing. So, número dos, we ask you, ¿Quién me puede comprar el pan? Who can buy some bread for me? And the answer is mi hijo, my son. So, my son can buy it for me. The it talking about the bread, of course. So, my son, mi hijo, to or for me, he can, puede, comprar. And he's able to buy it, referring to the bread. So we know that it has to come after our indirect object pronoun, but before my conjugated verb. So, mi hijo, it's the wrong way, sorry. Mi hijo te lo puede comprar. In this case, I switched it to te, not to confuse you, but there were question marks around here. So who is able to buy me some bread? Who can buy me some bread? Like somebody's asking, who can buy me some bread? And your friend says back, oh, well, my son can get it for you. He can buy it for you. So we changed it to te. So this is a little ambiguous. If you're shortening your own question, who can get it for me, then you would keep it as me. But otherwise, since you're answering the question, te makes more sense. Mi hijo te lo puede comprar. Here's another one just like that. Número tres. ¿Quién puede prestarme los platos que necesito? Who can lend me the plates that I need? And the answer is my mom. So we want to say back, my mom can lend you the plates that you need. My mom can lend them to you. So to or for you, we shorten to te. The plates, los platos, we shorten to los. And we have that mi mamá te los puede prestar. My mom, to or for you, them she can lend. Número cuatro. Nos falta la mantequilla. We're missing the butter. We're out of butter. ¿Quién nos trae la mantequilla? Who will bring us the butter? And the answer is mi cuñada, my sister-in-law. So we're responding to this question. So who can bring us the butter? Well, my sister-in-law, she can bring it to you all. Okay, so it we're talking about is the butter, la mantequilla. We know it's going to shorten to la. That part's easy. Changing it from to or for us to or for you all, we're going to start with les, and then we place it in front of our conjugated verb. Mi cuñada les la puede traer. My sister-in-law, to or for you all, it she is able to bring. Now, in this case, we know we're not allowed to les la, so we shorten even further to say, mi cuñada se la puede traer. Número 5. Los postres. ¿Quién está preparándonos los postres? The desserts? Who is preparing us the desserts? And the answer is Silvia y Renata. So this is where you get to be clever. You get to either attach or you can put it in front of your conjugated verb. Either way, who can prepare us the desserts? Well, we're going to answer and say that Silvia and Renata can prepare them for you all. So we'll start with people first. So to or for you all, we should start with les. The desserts, los postres, we're going to shorten to los. But we know we're not allowed to les los. And I didn't have enough room here on number 5 to write out that middle step for you. But we're not allowed to les los. So in this case, my les changes to se. And we order it with the indirect coming before the direct. And if you chose not to attach, you said Silvia y Renata se los está preparando. Silvia and Renata are preparing them for you. Or maybe you decided you wanted to be fancy on this one. You wanted to attach it. If so, you just slap those babies on the end of preparando and you said, Silvia y Renata está preparándoselos. She is preparing them for you all. Okay. Our last one, número 6. ¿Quién puede pedirle la pimienta a Mónica? Who can ask for the pepper? Who can ask Monica for the pepper? And the answer was mi hijo, my son. So we're trying to say, who can ask Monica for the pepper? My son can ask her for it. So we know we're going to shorten to or for her, a Monica, with le. The pepper, la pimienta, we're going to shorten to la, but we're not allowed to lela. So we get mi hijo se la puede pedir. My son, to or for her, it is able to ask. Now, in this case, you could also choose to attach it to your infinitive. So if you chose not to place it in front of your conjugative verb, se la puede pedir, you could attach it to the infinitive to pedir and say that mi hijo puede pedírsela. Either way, indirect before direct, and you still can't lela. Still got to be se. Hopefully, this is beginning to make sense. I know not necessarily a challenging topic, just a lot of different steps you got to think through. All right, so one last activity with double object pronouns, and then we'll kind of move on. So here I've separated them for you into direct or indirect, just to give you some practice with shortening. So there's two numero unos, so we'll do both of the numero unos together. So we see la ensalada, the salad. El camarero nos blank sirvió. The waiter, to or for us, blank served. The salad, he served it to us. So it, talking about the salad, shortened to la. The other numero uno. ¿Puedes traerme tu plato? Can you bring me your plate? No. No blank lo puedo traer. No, I'm not able to bring it to you. So can you bring me your plate? No, I can't bring it to you. To or for you, we shorten to te. Let's try a couple more. Número dos. El salmón, la dueña me recomienda. The salmon, the owner, to or for me, it recommended. Well, what's the it we're talking about? Yeah, it's the salmon, el salmón, which we know we're going to shorten to lo, la, los, or las. Correct. It should be lo. El salmón, lo, la dueña me lo recomienda. Okay, I'd like for you to take a moment and try numbers 3 and 4 just on the direct object side, just 3 and 4 on this side. When you're ready, you can unmute and we will take a look. Okay, so número 3, la comida, the food, voy a prepararte blank. So the food, I'm going to prepare to or for you blank. I'm going to prepare it for you. So shortening la comida, we should say I'm going to prepare it. Voy a prepararte la. Número 4, las bebidas. Estamos pidiéndose blank. The beverages, we are ordering blank. We're ordering them. Estamos pidiéndose las. Again, la comida shortened to la, and las bebidas shortened to las. All right, over here on the other side, we already did number 1. I want you guys again to pause. Please try numbers 2, 3, and 4. And in this case, you're using indirect object pronouns. So me, te, le, nos, os, les, or sometimes se. So you can unpause whenever you're ready. All right, amigos. So número 2, ¿quieres mostrarle la carta? Do you want to show to or for her the letter? Yeah, I want to show blank it right now. I want to show it to her right now. Quiero mostrarle la carta. Again, just talking about the letter. But remember, mostrarle la would give us a problem. And by the way, those little they kind of look like parentheses underneath the lines there. Those are connectors showing you that like this is one giant word. So we know we're not allowed to mostrarlela. So yeah, I'm going to show it to you. Voy a mostrárseela. Just changing that la to se. Or excuse me, changing that le to se. Número 3. ¿Les serviste la carne? Did you serve the meat to them? No, I didn't serve it to them. Well, we know that to or for them was our les. So we have no les la serví. But remember your middle step. Just like with number 2, we're not allowed to le la. So here we can't les la either. Our les is going to change to se. And we should get no se la serví. Número 4. ¿Vas a leerle el menú? Are you going to read the menu to her? Maybe thinking about like a child at a restaurant. No, I'm not going to read it to her. So we know to or for her, we're shortening to le. No lelo voy a leer. And we know we're not allowed to lelo as with the others. So we change our le to se, and we get no se lo voy a leer. All right, I hope that you're beginning to feel much better about those direct object pronouns. As we move on to our third grammar point, Gramática 8.3, we're discussing the verbs saber and conocer. So conveniently, both saber and conocer mean to know. The difference is that we use saber to talk about knowing information or how to do something. Saber is also very commonly accompanied by question words like por qué, cuándo, dónde, etc. So for knowing information, facts, knowing how to do something, we're going to use saber. Saber is irregular only in the yo form. There's no such thing as sabo. The yo form of saber becomes sé. So yo sé, tú sabes, él, ella, usted sabe, nosotros sabemos, vosotros sabéis, y ellos, ellas, ustedes saben. In this case, you have some sentences. Brittany sabe jugar al basketball. Brittany knows how to play basketball. Well, that's knowing how to do something. That's why we're using saber. Yo sé hablar español y italiano. So I know how to speak Spanish and Italian. That's knowing how to do something. So again, yo sé, using saber. On the flip side of that, we use conocer when we want to talk about knowing people or places. Just like with saber, the yo form of conocer is irregular. It becomes yo conozco. The only weird thing is that you get this Z here in the yo form, yo conozco. But tú conoces. Él, ella, usted conoce, nosotros conocemos, vosotros conocéis, y ellos, ellas, ustedes conocen. So here's a few examples for you. Yo conozco a Cardi B. So I know Cardi B. Well, Cardi B is a person. So in this case, we used conocer, the yo form conozco. And notice we use the personal a. So just a little tidbit about that. If what comes after conocer is a person or like an animal, then you're always going to use the a. So yo conozco a Cardi B. Yo conozco a Presidente Noland. Yo conozco a Doctora Heil. Okay, conozco a. Número dos, tú conoces Johnson City. So you know Johnson City. That's a place, right? So we're using conocer. You know Johnson City. You know Cardi B. You know a person. So just as a quick recap, for knowing information, how to do something, or when you see a question word accompanied, you're going to use saber. For knowing people or places, you're going to use conocer. And if what comes after conocer is a person, you're going to need the personal a. Okay, so that's saber and conocer in a nutshell. There are other verbs that are conjugated just like conocer in the yo form. Really, any verb that ends in ser, C-E-R, or cir, C-I-R in Spanish, it's going to get a ZC in the yo form. That C is going to change to a ZC. So for example, ofrecer, to offer, the yo form becomes ofrezco, just changing your C to a ZC and then conjugating as normal, chopping off your ER and adding an O. Same thing, parecer, to seem. In the yo form, we get parezco, changing our C to a ZC, and then chopping off our ER and adding an O. All the other forms are normal. So ofrece, pareces, parece, so on and so forth. It's just the yo form that's irregular. This is true of the others as well. Conducir is a cir verb. So in this case, my C is changing to a ZC, and then I'm chopping off my R and adding an O. So conduzco, but conduces, conduce, conducimos, conducís, conducen. Same thing for traducir, to translate. Traduzco is your yo form. So just some little things for you there. All right, it's time to practice. So I've given you some sentences here, and I tried to use some generic words that I thought everybody would know. And I would like for you to give these a try in deciding, is it saber or is it conocer? And don't forget you need to conjugate. Remember, we use saber for knowing information or how to do something. We use conocer for knowing people or places. So let's check it out. Yo no blank tu número de teléfono. I don't know your phone number. Well, gosh, would your phone number be information, people, places, or how to do something? Well, it should be information. We know we're using saber, and we conjugate in the yo form. We should say yo no sé. Yo no sé tu número de teléfono. Let's try one more, and then I'll give you a chance. Número dos. Blank tú la ciudad de Nueva York. Do you know New York City? Well, gosh, New York City. Information, people, places, or how to do something. Yeah, places. So we know we're using conocer. We conjugate it in the to form to ask, do you know? And we ask you if conoces tú la ciudad de Nueva York. Okay, please go ahead pause your audio and give numbers 3 through 6 a quick try. When you're ready, you can unmute. All right, let's check it out. So in número 3, we're given mi hermana. And we see that mi hermana hablar francés. So my sister, and to speak French. So my sister knows how to speak French. Does she know information, people, places, or how to do something? Well, in this case, she knows how to do something, how to speak French. So we should say that mi hermana sabe hablar francés, using saber because she knows how to do something. Número 4. Yo no blank a tu amigo Esteban. I do not know your friend Esteban. So do I not know information, people, places, or how to do something? Correcto. I don't know a person, so I should be using conocer. Yo no conozco a tu amigo Esteban. Okay, very important question. Hopefully there are no haters out there. But in número 5, we ask you if blank tu a ti Swizzle. Do you know Taylor Swift? Well, if I'm asking, do you know Taylor? Do you know information, people, places, or how to do something? That is absolutely right. You know a wonderful musical artist. So we should be using conocer, and we ask, do you know conoces? ¿Conoces tú a Taylor Swift? Okay, and then número 6. Blank tú el restaurante. Do you know the restaurant? Well, do you know information, people, places, or how to do something? That is correct. The restaurant is a place. So we should use conocer again and ask if conoces tú el restaurante. Also, notice in these last two, or numbers 4 and 5, we use the personal a because what came after was a person. Just FYI. All right, you guys seem like you're doing well. Our last grammar point of this chapter is in regards to comparatives and superlatives. These are not super difficult, but they are used like all the time in Espanol. So I just want to make sure you know how to do these. We have comparisons of inequality, aka unequal comparisons, and we have comparisons of equality, aka equal comparisons. So we're going to start with the unequal comparisons. These are always formed using this little green formula here, más or menos plus something and a que. And the blank could be an adjective, it could be an adverb, it could be a noun, lots of different options. So more or less blank than, essentially. In this case, más means more, menos means less, and que means than. So el té es más caro que el jugo. So the tea is more expensive than the juice, más caro que, more expensive than. And notice caro agreed with te, which was masculine and singular. Here's another example. Susana es menos generosa que su prima. Susana is less generous than her cousin. In this case, generosa agreed with Susana, who is feminine and singular. A few more examples. Luis se despierta más temprano que yo. So Luis gets up earlier than I do. Luis se despierta more early than I, literally. Más temprano que yo. Another example. Yo tomo más clases que Enrique. I take more classes than Enrique. Más clases que. So again, you can see there could be an adjective in between, there could be an adverb, it could be a noun. There's lots of different options. Some other examples. La paella está más rica que el gazpacho. So the paella is more tasty than the gazpacho. All right, so one more unequal comparison. You don't always have to have something in the middle. For example, with verbs, we use this construction. It's going to be your verb, and then your más or menos, and then your que. So unlike before, where you had something in the middle, más or menos blank que, here it's just your verb, and then más or menos que. Don't overthink this. It honestly just begins to sound normal in the context of the sentence. It just begins to kind of make sense. So, for example, mis hermanos comen más que yo. So my brothers eat more than I, más que yo. Or Antonio viaja más que tú. Antonio travels more than you do. In each of these sentences, it's kind of the same thing. Your verb is followed immediately by más que or menos que, depending on the meaning of the sentence. This is the same place we put it in English, so it shouldn't be too hard for you. Here are a few more examples. Arturo duerme menos que su padre. Arturo sleeps less than his father. Ana habla menos que yo. Ana talks less than I do. So again, they're in the same place as they are in English, which makes it a little bit easier to understand. Okay, so changing gears, let's talk about comparisons of equality now, equal comparisons. These are formed with the expressions you see in green. So we have tan blank como, and that blank in the middle is usually an adverb or an adjective. And for example, we see este plato es tan delicioso como aquel. So this plate, this dish, is as delicious as that one. Notice delicioso agrees with plato, which is masculine and singular. And we have as delicious as. So in this case, tan, an adjective, and como. Here's another example. Tu amigo es tan simpático como tú. Your friend is as nice as you are. In this case, simpático agreed with amigo, which was masculine and singular. Tan simpático como. On the flip side of that, you may have something else in between. And in these situations, you may begin to use a different construction. So we have tanto, or tantos, or tanta, or tantas, plus a singular or a plural noun. And that's where all this craziness comes in. If you have a singular noun that is masculine and singular, it's tanto. A singular noun that is feminine and singular, it's tanta. A plural noun that is masculine, it's tantos. And a plural noun that is feminine, it's tantas. So for example, I'm really just focusing on the agreement. Yo comí tanta comida como tú. I ate as much food as you. Yo comí tanta comida como tú. In this case, comida agrees with tanta. They both end in A because they're feminine and singular. Another example. Ustedes probaron tantos platos como ellos. You all tried as many dishes as they did. Tantos platos como ellos. Again, platos is masculine. It's plural. So tantos had to agree. Tantos platos como ellos. These comparisons of equality with verbs are usually formed by placing tanto como after the verb. And these are just a little bit weird. Kind of like before, you had the verb like sleeps more than his dad or eats less than his mom, whatever. It's the same as in English here as well. The big thing is that there's nothing in between these. It's just tanto como, and nothing changes. It's always tanto como. In these, there's nothing in between. They're not agreeing with anything. It's just saying as much as, literally, tanto como. So, for example, no duermo tanto como mi tía. I don't sleep as much as my aunt. As much as. There's nothing in between. It's not as nice as delicious as many plates as. It's just as much as. Another example. Estudiamos tanto como ustedes. We study as much as you all do. As much as. There's not anything in between. It's not as nice as skinny as kind as. It's just as much as. There's literally nothing there. Just tanto como. Okay, so before we move on, I just want to take a moment to have a brief little review. So again, your unequal comparisons, you have más blank que, menos blank que, or in some situations, you may have nothing in between, just más que, menos que. We also have our equal comparisons, which are tan blank como or tanto como, or you can make them agree. Tanto dinero, tanta gente, tantos días, or tantas fiestas when there are nouns there. So a brief little review. I'm going to tell you more about the irregulars in just a moment, but I just want to briefly introduce these four irregulars, okay? So we have better than, which is mejor, M-E-J-O-R, mejor. We have worse than, which is peor, P-E-O-R, peor. My favorite are mayor and menor. Mayor, like mayor que, means older than, mayor. I always tell people to remember this because the word mayor in English looks like mayor. And I don't know about you, but every time I think about the mayor of my city, I just think about, I don't really know who it is. It's just some old dude, right? Almost always the mayor is some old dude. So mayor, older. We also have menor, which means younger. I think it's helpful to look at this word, and it kind of looks like the English word minor. If you think about a minor is someone who's under the age of 18, right? They're younger than you. So menor. So four irregulars here. Mejor, peor, mayor, menor. We're going to come back to those in a sec, but just so you know. All right, so I want to give you some practice. In my in-person classes, I usually just steal people's names in the class and I start like talking about you in live context, but I can't do that right in this moment, so I made up some examples. So Dawson is taller than Grayson. Literally in Spanish, this is an unequal comparison. We should say that Dawson is more tall than Grayson. Dawson es más alto que Grayson. Be careful, it does not matter that Grayson is a girl. All that matters is that Dawson is male, and so alto agrees with Dawson. There could be 10 people on this side, doesn't matter. Alto still agrees with Dawson, it's masculine and it's singular because he's the subject of our sentence. Dawson es más alto que Grayson. So I want you to try this. How would I say that Kelly is taller than Dawson? Kelly is a girl, Dawson is a guy. We should say that. Kelly es más alta que Dawson. Literally more tall than again, but alta in this case, since Kelly is a female. Okay, she's the subject of our sentence, so alta agreed with Kelly. There's my arrow to prove it. Let's try another one. Again, just picking on people. Let's say that Nate is less athletic than LeBron James. So we said that Nate es menos atlético que LeBron James. He is less athletic than. In this case, atlético agreed with Nate, who is masculine and singular. Let's let you try one. How would I say that Ryan Gosling is less attractive than Channing Tatum? Using the word atractivo for attractive. Very good. You said Ryan Gosling es menos atractivo que Channing Tatum. Less attractive than. Awesome. Making them agree. Since Ryan Gosling is a male, atractivo also had to be masculine and singular. All right, so time for you to practice. Looking at a few people, we have Lucila here and Teresa. So it tells us that Lucila es más alta y más atractiva blank Teresa. So she's taller and more attractive. To say taller than in Espanol, you learned our comparisons. Unequal were más or menos, adjective plus que. So we should say más atractiva que Teresa. Número 2. Teresa es más delgada porque practica blank deportes que su hermana. So Teresa is skinnier because she practices blank sports than her sister. Well, if she's skinnier, maybe she practices more sports, más deportes que su hermana. That's why she's thin. She's running a lot. Número 3. Lucila es blank simpática que Teresa porque es alegre. So Lucila is blank nice than Teresa because she is happy. So in this case, it makes sense to say she's nicer, more nice than, más simpática que. Número 4. A Teresa le gusta quedarse en casa. Teresa likes to stay at home. She goes to blank fiestas que su hermana. She goes to blank parties than her sister. Well, in this case, she likes to stay at home. So she probably goes to, yeah, very good. She goes to less parties, menos fiestas. And last one. Teresa estudia más que Lucila. She studies more than Lucila. Ahora está tomando 5 clases más blank su hermana. So Teresa studies more than Lucila. Right now she's taking 5 classes more blank her sister. 5 classes more than her sister. We should say más que. Más que. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so now we've been practicing with unequal comparisons. Let's take a moment to practice with equal comparisons. It just so happens we have on this next slide Mario and Luis. And Mario and Luis are los novios de Lucila y Teresa. Los novios. They're the boyfriends of Lucila and Teresa. And they happen to match. As we look here, you should be using the equal comparisons tan, tanto, tanta, tantos, and tantas. And it tells us in número 1 that Mario es blank interesante como Luis. Mario is blank interesting as Luis. Well, he's as interesting as Luis, so we should use tan interesante como Luis. I want you to take a moment, pause your audio, try numbers 2 through 5, and when you're ready, you can unmute and we'll give the rest of these a try. All right, so número 2. Mario viaja blank como Luis. So Mario travels blank as Luis. Well, he travels as much as. Remember, if there's nothing in between, to say as much as, we just use tanto como. Nothing in between, just tanto como. He travels as much as. Número tres, Luis habla blank lenguas extranjeras como Mario. So Luis speaks blank foreign languages as Mario. Well, he speaks as many foreign languages. So we took and we made a degree. We said tantas lenguas extranjeras. And in this case, lenguas extranjeras both were feminine and plural. Lenguas extranjeras. So we left it as tantas with an AS to make it agree. Número 4. Luis cocina carnes blank bien como Mario. So Luis cooks meats blank well as Mario, well as tan bien como. Notice the difference there. Number 3, we had a noun, foreign languages. But in number 4, we had an adjective, so we kept it as tan, didn't make it agree. Here's another one with a noun in número 5. Mario tiene blank amigos como Luis. Mario has blank friends as Luis. Well, he has as many friends. So we're going to take it, make it agree with amigos, the noun. We make it agree, it becomes tantos. Tantos amigos como Luis. All right, you guys are doing very, very well. I do want to give you a chance to have some more practice. So let's do this in a fun way. I'm going to show you some pictures. We have on the left The Rock, and on the right we have Zac Efron. So The Rock is blank tall Zac Efron. We know he is more tall than, so you should say The Rock es, very good. You said más alto que, more tall than. We kept it as alto with an O since The Rock is one male. Okay, Action Bronson is blank Wiz Khalifa. All right, we have Action Bronson on the left. We got 36 years. On the right, we got Wiz Khalifa, 32 years. So we're trying to say that Action Bronson is older than. You may remember this is one of our irregulars. So you said, very good, you should say mayor que. Remember, thinking about the mayor being some old dude, Action Bronson is mayor que, older than Wiz Khalifa. Número 3, Will Ferrell is blank Usain Bolt. So Will Ferrell is blank fast. I would argue that he is less fast. So we should say Will Ferrell es, very good, menos rápido que, less fast than, menos rápido que. Awesome. Okay, so these were just for fun. Try one more. This is an equal comparison. In this case, we have two people who are supposed to be equally tall, just to clear that up. So using the word alto to say that he is as tall as she, we should say that él es, very good, tan alto como, as tall as, tan alto como. All right, you guys are doing great. Looking at our superlatives, maybe you think back to high school, maybe you had senior superlatives. Who was the nicest? Who was the most likely to succeed? Who was the most romantic? Whatever. I don't remember all of this, but anyway, there were lots of superlatives and most whatever. So superlatives in English usually end in est, like darkest, angriest, biggest, bravest, brightest, etc. Hey, that would be a good one. Who was the brightest in your class? Anyway, these superlatives in Spanish are formed by using a definite article, el, la, los, or las, followed by a noun, followed by más or menos, an adjective, and de. So, for example, es el café más rico del país. It is el, café, the noun, the coffee, más, the most, the adjective, rico, and then del país, of the country. So es el café más rico del país. It is the richest or most delicious coffee in the country. Here's another example. Son las tiendas menos caras de la ciudad. They're the stores least expensive of the city. So in this case, tiendas was feminine, it was plural. So son las tiendas menos caras de la ciudad. In this case, we had our definite article, las, our noun, tiendas, menos, our adjective, caras, and a de. So son las tiendas menos caras de la ciudad. They are the stores least expensive of the city. All right. So one other way that you might include a superlative is with what we call an absolute superlative, and these always end in isimo or isima or isimos or isimas. And literally, these are just they're kind of like slang in a way. And they just make it like really, 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 or very. So I could say like muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias. Or wow, that exam was facilísimo. It was so easy, like even more so than muy fácil. It'd be like muy fácil, facilísimo, right? Or oh my gosh, that exam was bad, malísimo, so bad. So you're just adding isimo or isima to the end of your adjective. In some cases, there are spelling changes, not always, like the ones I just gave you, like mucho, you just took off the O and made it muchísimo. Malo, same thing, malísimo. And fácil, you just added ísimo. Some of them do have spelling changes, though, like rico becoming riquísimo with a QU. Joven becoming jovencísimo, like such a youngin, so young, jovencísimo. Largo becoming really long, larguísimo. Hardworking, trabajador becoming trabajadorcísimo. Easy, fácil. That one wasn't super strange. The only thing is you lost your accent. Facilísimo. You lost the accent on the A because you were adding one later on the I. And then feliz became felicísimo, changing the Z to a C. So these aren't terribly difficult. They are very fun. So for example, if she's really pretty, ella es bonitísima. He is really attractive. Él es guapísimo, right? So just going through and taking off the O and then adding your ísimo or ísima, except for these weird ones. So those are just for fun. All right, last thing. These are the irregulars, and I kind of already alluded to a few of them to make it less difficult, less scary, I guess. So under the adjectives, you see bueno, good, malo, bad, grande, big, pequeño, small, joven, young, and viejo, old. In comparative form, just like in English, we don't say, man, that pasta was more good than the other pasta. No, we say that pasta was better than. So it's the same thing. Instead of more good than, we say better, mejor. Or in superlative form, el mejor, the best. Or la mejor, talking about something feminine, the best. Same thing here. Malo or mala, meaning bad. So we don't say, man, that pasta is more bad than the other one. No, we say that pasta is worse than, peor que. Or if someone is the worst, el peor, or la peor. Grande. And when we talk about somebody being older than, you can talking about someone's size, be like, oh, él es más grande, he's bigger, right? But when we talk about someone being older, we use the word mayor, which we've already talked about, looks like mayor, mayor que, or el mayor, the oldest, la mayor, the oldest. Pequeño, same thing with small. You can say like that dog is smaller, más pequeño que. But if you're trying to say younger, we use menor. So menor que or el menor, la menor. And then finally, for older, again, instead of viejo, you don't say más viejo que. You say mayor que or el mayor, la mayor. So just some little facts about those irregulars. All right, so we've kind of summarized all these things, superlatives in a nutshell. You have el, la, los, or las, your definite article, más or menos, and an adjective, de. So I said, tengo la familia más simpática de Caracas. I have the nicest fam in Caracas, literally the family most nice of. We've already talked about your irregulars, el, la, los, and las, with your adjective. So el criollito es el mejor restaurante de Caracas. It is the best restaurant, el mejor restaurante. Again, you have your el, la, los, or las, your mejor, and then your noun. Okay, so I think you guys got the hang of it here. One last example for you. Using these structures, I would normally go back and pull the real people in the class and say that Dawson is the tallest in the class instead of Dawson is taller than or less tall than like we did earlier. To say he is the tallest, again, just use that structure. Dawson es el más alto de la clase. If I want to say this class is the nicest class at the university, or literally this class is the class most nice, I would say esta clase es la clase más simpática de la universidad. And truthfully, in that last statement, you could even mark out clase. This class is the most nice. Esta clase es la más simpática de la universidad, because we know it's referring back to clase. All in all, I hope you're feeling better about comparisons and superlatives. And guys, as always, I'm here to help you every step of the way. I genuinely enjoy working with you and answering your questions. And if If you have any questions anytime, please don't hesitate to send me an email. I am not big and scary. I promise I'm here to help. So let me know if you need anything, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Gracias, adios, ciao.